How's it going today? Come on, guys. We're talking procurement here. How's it going today? That's what I'm talking about. Listen, y'all, it is time for us to fix procurement. We got to stop screwing around, and we got to fix procurement. Are you with me? So I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time talking about RFP-EZ, but I want to talk about what we learned from it. RFP-EZ was a system we built. It just made it really simple and obvious as to how to bid on government contracts, how to find government contracts, and how to bid on them. And that's it. It's not rocket science. I'm not a genius. We were like, hey, let's put up a bootstrap site with a Bid Now button on it. Turns out, saves the government 30%. So I want to talk about a bit about what we learned. The first rule is write better. You can get all of the advantages of RFP-EZ, and I think you heard Stacy mention it earlier. You can get all the advantages of procurement reform if we just start writing for human beings rather than for sociopaths. So this is what a typical intro to a government contract looks like. This request for information as defined in FAR 15-201-3. The purpose of this RFI is to accomplish market research pursuant to the Federal Acquisition Regulation Part 10, blah, 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 blah. And this paragraph alone will make someone want to kill themselves. Now, this information obviously is important to put in there to placate, general counsel offices and stuff, but it's not going to get you any businesses actually bidding on these contracts that you want. So we're releasing a tool today called writeforhumans.io. And what it does is it helps people write better. And you can check it out now. Instead of saying fix comprehensive procurement reform, let's say fix how government buys things. It's simpler, it's easier to understand. We have to start writing better documents if we want better bidders. The second thing is, and this is the one mistake I think I made in the RFP-EZ process, is we didn't pay any attention to the barriers to entry to registration, to how a vendor is actually allowed to work with the city. And I know the Open Counter guys are working on business licenses, but it's also the burdens that someone has to sign up for becoming a local bidder. This is the City of Atlanta's registration form, and it's simple enough to begin with. It's like, who works for your company? And then you get to the bottom of Section 2, where what you have to do is you have to provide a notarized letter from at least 3 customers of your of the potential bidder, a notarized letter. So how many businesses want to call up your clients and say, hey, do you mind going to the notary with me? I'm trying to get a government contract. It's just not going to happen. The other thing that's interesting here is you can turn this into an API. And this is actually a really interesting business opportunity for a city to actually create new small businesses. I want this to be an API in your city so that I can build a better user experience than probably you can. So it's this exciting way where you might be able to get lots of businesses to start using your forms as a potential jumping off point for creating a business. Every form that a government has is a potential business opportunity. Know how much stuff costs. You just heard about that. Make bidding easy and obvious. That's the RFP-EZ way. So this is what, if you search for web development inside of fedbizops.gov at the federal level, this is your search results, which includes histology services and urea. I don't, and this is the City of Philadelphia's, e-contracting page where you land if you're looking for contracts. This is what you have to read through in order to figure out how to bid on a government contract. This is Screen Door. This is how you search in our company for a technology position, right? You type in developer, and guess what? Stuff with developer comes up, and only stuff with developer comes up. This is how you bid on a contract. On the right, you see a project description. On the left, you see your form that you actually use to bid on the contract. And when you're done, you click Submit, and you've submitted a bid. The last thing and most important thing that we have to do is end this idea of fear-based buying. That's really what this is about. We don't want to fix procurement. We want to end fear-based buying. The idea of fear-based buying is we have Leslie Knope going, how do I get awesome tech people to make cool stuff for Pawnee? And then, this sort of mythology says that the contracting officer is going, how do I ensure that no fraud happens and no laws are broken and the purchase is uncontested? How do I prevent everything from failing? And so you end up with the system that yields this, which is the higher the budget, the lower your risk tolerance is, and that ends up with this. Studying the history of large IT projects is similar to studying the history of helicopters. It's really an exercise in studying massive crashes that tend to look like this. I want my $2. I want my $2 back. That's how much each of us paid for healthcare.gov. I want my money back because it's not working. And it's not working, I believe, because of the sheer size and complexity of the implementations. And if we gear our procurement policies towards smaller projects and smaller implementations, we're going to get more successful results. So if we start moving the risk to smaller increments, so we plan for failure and we bet on failure rather than trying to spend as much money as we can to prevent it and thereby almost ensuring it, we can stop this from happening. Here's SAM.gov, $181 million, the central website for federal procurement. Can't support multiple tabs. This is City Time. You New Yorkers know about that. It was awesome. Great job. So you have this idea of risk tolerance is mitigated by budget size, but actually it's the probability of failure increases with actually the size of your budget, it turns out. If you look through history, that's what's happening. And it yields this idea of, let's go with the enemy that we know. Let's contract with a large IT company because we've dealt with them before, and then they'll manage our relationships with small businesses. And what turns out happens then is you've got this increased pricing because you've got somebody siphoning off the top, one, and two, you've got a kludgy way of integrating your systems, and it makes it so that this idea of fear-based buying just doesn't work. This is a chart of this is a chart of government contractors and when they were founded. We started in 19 with GE. I don't know if 19 is right, and we're now in the 60s with SAIC, or 70s with SAIC, and that was the last real one that was founded. The last top 25 government contractor, the newest top 25 government contractor is SAIC. They were founded in 1970-something. L3 was founded in 1997, but they're actually just a spin-off of Lockheed Martin. So something's clearly gone wrong in this space where we've mitigated new businesses. We've mitigated risk so high that no new business can actually become a new one of these large suppliers to government. It's all but impossible for them, and so that's why we have to end this fear-based buying and instead go through growth-based buying. If we instead use our offices and use our contracting officers to take a holistic approach to say, hey, wait a minute, we've got a big problem with the supplier selection that we have at the very top end. We've got to use the small end to grow new businesses so that we can increase supplier diversity. Then we've got something going, because you can take smaller risks, you just can't take big risks. So Leslie Knope instead says, how do I make it easy for tech companies to work with our city? Rather than saying, how do I get cool tech people in here? How do I support these businesses? How do I make policy that creates opportunities for these people to work with our city? And you've got a contracting officer that goes, hey, wait a minute, to really cover my butt, what I've got to do is have a lot of great suppliers at the high end, and I need to nurture growth from the low end into the high end. I realize that this is almost an impossible ask. And so in the end, you see government starting to grow small to medium-sized businesses into large businesses. This is really my key point. The great strides have been made in closing the digital divide between the poor and the rich, but not great strides yet have been made between closing the digital divide between government and the private sector. There's a digital divide there too, and what is creating that gap is poor, old procurement policies that are keeping entrenched businesses in and keeping new small businesses out. And we've got to fix that, because this divide, it's being created not by a poverty of money, but it's being created by a poverty of attention. And if we decide as a community to pay attention to procurement and say, this year, we're going to fix it, we're going to start experimenting, we're going to start launching, and we're going to start winning at procurement, next year is going to be awesome. The Department of Better Technology wants to help. Any city that wants to call us, we'll do whatever we can to help work with you to create new kinds of interesting procurement experiments. We're on board and excited. I hope, are you guys with me? Do you guys want to fix procurement? All right. Well, thanks very much, y'all. I'm going to wrap it up since that clock said 0 for a really long time now. I'm Clay Johnson, and I'm out of here.